The Historical Preservation Board meeting, December 18, 2025, will now come to order. Roll call, please.
Bradford Green,
Here.
Camilla Hardy,
Here.
Dan Dodge,
Here.
Frank Murray,
Here.
Alice McCoy,
Here.
Veronica Glover.
Here.
Thank you.
Next item of business on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our January 27, 2025 through April 17, 2025.
I move that we accept the minutes for January 27, 2025, and April 17, 2025, with any necessary corrections.
It has been properly motioned and second for the approval of the minutes from January 27, 2025 through April 17, 2025. All in favor? Aye. Next, we'll have our business items. First item is city codes, land development code changes.
So, Madam Chair, first, I'd like to welcome our new member, Frank Murray. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So delighted to have you here.
My honor.
And so, last spring, thank you.
There you go.
How's that?
Better.
Last spring, the city completed a historical survey of the city, which hadn't been done in over 30 years. We have today in our package an update summary of the conclusions and recommendations. With that, of course, it further means that there needs to be a review of the historic preservation ordinances as they stand. And the commission was fortunate that Commissioner Laurie accepted the challenge and has just completed his draft of it. It is now being reviewed, and after he receives comments back, then it will be presented to us, and as well as the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society for comment. And with that, of course, it's also probably may impact land development code changes as well as city codes. Derek, any further comment on that?
Not at this time, other than that it is in the review queue. It is in the review queue, and the coordinator will be out for the next 2 weeks, but we'll get some answers so we can have some feedback in that dialogue moving forward.
Terrific.
Thank you. Next, we'll have, oh, I'm sorry. Would there be any public comments at this time?
It's very weird being on this end.
Yeah.
We're so accustomed to seeing you up here.
Yeah, I'm accustomed to it too. I don't know.
I don't know how to do that.
I'll get closer to it. As long as this doesn't take away from my time. You guys have time. Is that better? Can you guys hear me? Hi, PJ Laurie, 505 Magnolia Avenue. What Mr. Dodge said is correct. I, for some reason, decided that I was going to work on the historic preservation ordinance, mostly because it needed to be done. A little bit of history. We've had a historic preservation ordinance in our code since about 1995, I believe, since when we first did the National Register of Historic District. And unfortunately, when we recodified, which is a process when you take all of your ordinances and put them all together, make sure everything's in line with state laws and everything's caught up and make it usable and easy to access on the website through Municode. In that process, the historic preservation ordinance was lost. It was stricken. Part of that was, most of that was a mistake. It was not something that was planned to be done. It was not intentional. Part of that was because we were rewriting the land development code, as you guys all know. I was here with you when we started that process 3 years ago. When we were going through that long process, Mark Pratt from Seth Cohen said that we wouldn't need the historic preservation ordinance because it will all be covered in the land development code. That's the reason why Mr. Rudd at the time took that out of the recodification part. So that's why we don't have a historic preservation ordinance currently. Now, we do have the land development code, which does have it does establish the historic preservation board and does have some of the regulations in it. What we do need to do is to adopt a new historic preservation ordinance that will fill in all those gaps and make it so that everything is in line. And so what I tried to do was I attempted to write this ordinance and make sure that it was copacetic with everything in the land development code. So hopefully we won't have to amend the land development code because everything that's in there works. It was all updated, it was all current, it all made sense. So this ordinance will just give the rest of it, fill it in. And really the real guide that I used was the requirements for certified local government. And that is a designation that you get from the state of Florida and from the National Park Service that kind of gives us I don't know how to say, make sure that we check all these boxes so that we can take care of historic preservation ourselves. And that gives us kind of more power and more leeway. It also gives us more access to grants and stuff like that. So it's very important. Becoming a certified local government is quite advantageous and something that has been a goal of the city for 5, 6, 7 years in the comprehensive plan. And it's been in the land development code that we want to do it and in our strategic plan. So we haven't made any progress out that until hopefully now. And what our city manager was referring to is I sent the ordinance to Dr. Kira Lucas, who's the one at the Department of State and the Division of the Bureau of Historic Preservation. And she oversees the Certified Local Government certification program. So that's who's looking at it right now. And so those are people that will tell you, yes or no, you've got a great ordinance. Usually you do that after it's adopted, but when I met her and talked to her this summer, I was like, well, we don't know where we're trying to come from, we don't know where we're coming from. And so she suggested that I could send it to her now. She could take a look at it and give me some feedback beforehand. Because I don't think adopting an ordinance and then sending it to them and getting feedback at that point would make any sense. We might as well get it right the first time. So that was what I attempted to do, and that's where we are on that. My hope is that we'll get some feedback after the first of the year, give some direction, and then we can present it to the Historic Preservation Board, let you guys look it over, and then we will suggest or recommend it to the City Commission for approval. So we really want you guys to be a part of this because part of that Certified Local Government program is you. If you being in existence and the power that you have and what the tasks that you have to the tasks that you are charged with are what makes the CLG program work. And so some of those requirements are you have to meet at least quarterly, you have to meet 4 times a year. And then there's, record keeping and that kind of stuff. But what you would be doing is determining certificates of appropriateness. That's one of the biggest jobs of the Historic Preservation Board. So when you have a historic building and someone wants to alter it or add on or tear it down, they would need to come before you to get that permission to do that. And so it would be your job to hear those cases and make a determination on it. That's one of the biggest jobs of the Historic Preservation Board. So it's all a process. It's also something that's on his recommendations from Mr. Weaver as to move forward, and it's something that's very important. And I'm just happy that we're finally making some progress. I think actually the first meeting that we had as a planning and zoning board, I sat right there, Frank, right there in the seat, and I said, hey, this is what needs to be certified local government. We need to do this. And unfortunately, that was 3 years ago. And so we haven't gotten very far since then, and that's my fault. But I am happy that we're making progress, and the city manager has been really great about assisting me, and I think we're moving in the right direction. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're so grateful for your fine work,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment.
Just need to state your name and address for us, please.
Okay. I'm John Newbold. I live at 566 Old Highway 17, Crescent City. Can I digress a moment and speak about our chairman? Would you mind? I'm going to embarrass you. When I was much younger, her mother came to me one day. She was very young. She said, I want my 2 girls to work this summer, pulling grass, which is weeding. And I said, I don't have anything really. She says, I need this. I said, all right. So they went to work, and they were off the street. And here is Veronica chairing this committee. I think this is a testament to small town living and what Crescent City really is like. We're a true town, a real city. We have infrastructure. We have a water treatment, water plant. It's a real town, and it really functions. And in the wisdom of the city commission, they decided to do this survey. And you people serving with no pay on this committee, and I want to thank each one of you. It's really a comprehensive survey. It's well done. And you can find it on the city site by just going, and you can download the whole thing and look at it. But I'm sure you're all aware of this, but I'm saying this for the public good. The conclusion and recommendation pages, which are 224 and the next 3, are really the meat of the deal. And it has 7 conclusions, or 7, not conclusions, but 7 bullet points. And if this committee and the city kind of goes by those bullet points, it'll mean something. But if we just let it sit on the shelf and nothing happen, then this survey will be a great piece of literature, you might say. But this, if the city keeps this in mind for the future, the historical preservation of this little town will be intact and held in good shape. And it's really important that we look at our historic buildings and make sure that there's some organized way of helping them not to be just abandoned. And I thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, our next item of business is the historical recommendation nominations.
We can do this.
Historical markers?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the historical markers?
So the Historical Society has done the process of, it's ordered the new sign. And we're delighted with it. It's being made now for delivery in time for May. And BJ, would you come up and give us an update on it again? BJ is the one who's been working hand in hand on this.
Or Commissioner Flory. Hi, it's me again, 505 Bentley Avenue. And Mr. Dodge is correct. As you guys know, last year, the Historical Society, or actually it was this year, passed in May. We had the ribbon cutting for the historic marker at the Hubbard Morris House, which was a great event. It was really great. I still can't forget the smile on Miss Morris's face when she saw it, and it's really great that we made her happy. And we recognized a very important building in Crescent City's history. The Hubbard House is the only individually listed property on the National Register of Historic Places. That's a really big deal. We have a National Historic District, which has 200 or so contributing structures, but this was way before all of that. It was in the 78, I think, when it was listed. So it's a really neat place, and it's a beautiful house if you haven't had a chance to tour or see it. So what we wanted to do, what the Historical Society wanted to do was every year in May to kind of help celebrate Historic Preservation Month, to continue the process and have a new marker every year. So this next year in May, we are going to be unveiling a marker at the Church of the Holy Comforter, which is the Episcopal Church right on Summit. It is a beautiful church. It's one of the oldest churches in town. That is still in the same place, I believe. The two other churches were moved, and it has a neat history as well. It was, if you go up and down the St. Johns River, from Kissimmee to Jacksonville, there is just a list of churches that were called Carpenter Gothic. They actually came from a pattern book that was developed by John Upton, who designed the Trinity Cathedral in New York City. And so he had these patterns and said, here you go, you guys can use this to build churches wherever you are, because you have local congregations all over the country, but especially in Florida, it was around that time period. And so it allowed them, it had kind of a pattern and had some simple instructions that allowed you to kind of upscale it or down, if you had a big congregation, you make them bigger or smaller. But if you start looking at the churches, a lot of them were Episcopal churches, and they have the lancet windows, this little skinny that come to a point. They usually have a bell tower that's offset to the right. And you can look at them and you see the same kind of idea. There's the one in Malacca, Emmanuel Episcopal Church. It's a little bit different, but it has the same kind of style, the same basic structure. And you can look at all over Florida. There's dozens and dozens of them. So it's kind of neat how they're tied together, but each one of them was built using local materials, and they're all wood. So first of all, to exist from 1878 to now is a heck of an achievement. And the congregation here has done an amazing job of keeping it in good shape. And it's a beautiful church. I love always walking or driving by at night and seeing the lights on and stained glass windows. But it'll be exciting to have that honor and to honor this facility. Those markers are made out of solid aluminum with a bronze coating, and they will basically last forever. I mean, that marker is going to be out there long after all of us are gone. So it'll be something that helps spotlights the history of this area and the importance of it and the history of that building. And so we want to keep doing it every year. It does take 6 months to manufacture it. So as Mr. Dodge said, the wording has been wordsmithed and fought back and forth and written and rewritten, because you have a certain number of characters that you can fit on there. And it's a lot harder than even that, because you can't have a word that breaks on a line and goes down to the next line, and there's like a hyphen in it, and that's just weird. So it's a real challenge to make it all fit on there. And of course, you always want to say more than what you have room for. So we really cut it down and made it, kept the meat, the important part. But it is in production right now at Seawall Studios, which is in Ohio. And they're the people that make all of the signs that you see, the Florida State ones, and like the Blue Star Highways that you see, which those were put out in like the 60s. And those things are still, you'll see some of them there a little bit, but corroded, but they can clean them up and it looks brand new. So these things last forever. It's really, really kind of amazing. And it's all still handmade. They make a whole stencil and then do the letters and put them all and lay them all out and then make it all. It's really a fascinating process. So it takes 6 months. It's in process right now, so we should have it for May. And hopefully you guys will join us when we do the ribbon cutting. And it is sponsored, it says at the bottom, sponsored by the City of Crescent City and the Freedom Peninsula Historical Society. And the city commissioner approved that and has just, has said in spirit, they will certainly support the program. And we're hoping that in the future we'll be able to help fund some of it. Because as of right now, the Historical Society has been covering the cost, and also donors donated specifically for that. And it costs about $3,000 per marker. So if anybody has some money laying around and would like to donate it, we would gladly accept it, because they are costly. But I think they're a great addition to the community, and it's good to see them. And we'll have to see what next year's is. I don't know. We haven't decided. We haven't talked about that yet. I don't want to get started on that. So, is that good? Any other questions?
About around when we will get a date in May.
Well, it all depends on when they actually are delivering it and whenever date we figure out. May is National Historic Preservation Month, so we always have a lot going on with the Historical Society, and we'll try and fit it together. But as soon as we know, I'll make sure you guys know.
Okay.
And we'll try and get out the word to many people. Because it's a neat event to be able to be there and watch it when they finally take it down. And we do have to, and I do want to say, I appreciate the city manager and Public Works facility and the Public Works employees. They did an amazing job putting in the one at Molly's house. It was actually a very rainy week, and we got it nice a week before we were going to do the unveiling. And actually, the pole that we had ordered was 10 feet tall, and we only needed a 7 foot tall one. So when they first installed it, it was really tall and facing the wrong way. And before I even had a chance to say anything, it was cut down, turned, and everything looked great. So they did a really good job. It was nasty weather that week, but it all turned out great. And you guys can see it now. It's at the bottom it's on Lake Street, so it's at the bottom of the hill from the Morris house. Because if you put it at the back, it's not a very pretty part of the house. So if you go to Lake Street, you'll see it there. And Molly Morris was at our potluck just recently, just today. And she tells me every time, she's like, you wouldn't believe how many people have stopped there and read the thing. She's like, every time she goes out to water her plants or flowers on the porch, there's somebody out there. And I'm like, the people like that stuff. So in fact, she told me that when she first came, or when they would drive around, her and her husband would drive around and look up where markers were and then go to the towns and find them and go around like on a weekend trip. And I'm like, that's really great. So it is now, I'm working on the listing on the website. There's a website that does marker listings. And so I just have to take a few more pictures of it and put it on there so that people will be able to look it up and find out where it is and come and visit it. So it's really neat. Thanks.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I think that following those remarks, the Church of the Holy Comforter sign is going to be on 17. And I believe it's the first one on 17.
Yeah.
So I'm quite sure that a lot of people are going to stop and read it. But it's very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item will be our historical recommendations nominations.
This is, with most historical organizations, small or large, they have a running list of important historical properties. And often they're put in a priority, most important, most endangered. And I think that recognizing that Crescent City has a great history, it was, as Mr. Newbold stated, it is a small community with great families coming together, population coming together, and a tight bond, and extremely successful. With that, we all recognize that there are very important structures. And I think it's time that we give thought and develop a list in the coming months of what we recognize as priority historical properties. Any others have comment?
I have a comment.
Anybody, but, I do agree that, that is something, but we'll get you, Ms. Angel. Just hold on. I do agree that we need to start working on compiling that list together. Because we have talked about that in several of our meetings, so that is something that we need to start doing. So anybody else have any input? Okay.
So, yes, go ahead.
No, I was just wanting to make a comment. I know in the beginning, we were talking about, applying for an application to become a CLG. That was one of the, things that we can do the list, I guess, just for clarity. So we just didn't have, we weren't a CLG to be able to take that list and actually start the process, but I did agree that we did talk about at least compiling a list so that when we did come, get that status, that we'll be able to already have had those items, some idea of some buildings that we would recommend. So
Yes.
I do agree with that.
That's a very important point. Thank you for bringing it up. So I suggest in the coming month that we all create a list and when we meet next, discuss it.
We can discuss it and then.
Do we have any kind of criteria or guidance,
Yeah,
guidelines?
Do we have a criteria?
There should, I think there is, and that was part of becoming that CLG.
yes.
That there is certain, that those buildings would have to meet a certain criteria. So we kind of reviewed what it took to become a CLG and what, the process would be, but we couldn't do anything with it because we didn't have that status
Yes.
at the time. So I guess my original question was, are we asking us to just create a list of buildings that we thought would be worth preserving? And then once we reach that status, then whatever the criteria is, that we would be able to then look at that list to go by in order to determine if those buildings would fit that criteria.
Yes.
I think it may be more efficient if we get the list of criteria and then use that as our guideline. Derek, is that?
Is that,
Yeah, so I was gonna update you all too, the update on the National Register District, we had a meeting with Dos Grants, so it was a panel a while back. I was just reading here some of the background on that.
Derek, tell them what DOS grants is.
I'm sorry?
They don't know what DOS grants is.
Sorry, that is the portal that we use for our grants, says through the state. However, Mr. Paul Weaver could not sit on the meeting. He gave me a list of items to discuss with them. There was only a few questions that they had, but this panel goes over our request. They grade that request. They look at what we're trying to accomplish. They grade that. That is what is in your pamphlet. If you go to your file, it's in there. It looks like this right here. It is the application
Oh, yes.
details and panelist scores. We did score high enough. Now, if the money is released, that is the $50,000 match grant, small match grant. That is gonna be where they're gonna come in, and the main purpose of updating the Crescent City District is to adjust the boundaries to include more recently constructed buildings and exclude areas where buildings have been demoed. Another is to update the period of significance from 1945 to 1975. It would probably fall in if you all do accomplish looking at some of these buildings and creating a list, be able to give that to the people that are putting this report together at that time and do this update. It can all work cohesively at the same time. But that is something, just if you look at the grade cards, out of the 30 some odd municipalities, we scored around, I believe, 15, 16, somewhere around there. Our score was significantly high, and they did seem to lean towards it. If the money was released, we were gonna be getting that grant. And we should find that out sometime in the late spring to early summer.
Okay.
So in the meanwhile, you'll be able to send us the list to the guide list secretary.
Sure.
Kind of
Yeah,
educate ourselves on the process. Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, all right, thank you. We just wanted to clarify all of this so everybody out there will understand and, so we're all on the same page.
No problem, I came up to make a comment. Angela D. Pozio for North Lake Street Memorial Improvement Society, Service Society Boards. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in generating that Crescent City from a service standpoint for the past 5 years. Love the idea of the markers, so I would just speak to that. And as I'm waiting to speak, I'm just looking at some of the comments you guys were making, was very much what I was gonna talk about. That's good, the whole floor heard it. In doing some of the historical markers, I was just thinking about that a lot because you look at all the structures, especially residential, a lot of buildings here over 100 years old. And I was thinking that would be like the Women's Club did a tour of homes, or we could do tour markers from an educational standpoint when people come into this beautiful town. And we can take them around to all of the markers. And you have the little codes that they can scan, and then they can go back at home to their hotels or whatever and review this in detail and share it with their neighbors and have them come the next year, et cetera. So that's the point that I was gonna make, and I think you brought that up, Kim. But the historic aspect of it, not just businesses, I think we have much more homes than we realize. It doesn't have to be on this side of us. Summit, if you're all the way back over Huntington Road and all those places have beautiful structures. For example, the one on, it's out the street from the Randolph sign, that junction there, they call it the Paradise. I think it's your relative's home.
The temple.
The temple,
the
yes.
outside, yes.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. And maybe at some point, we can have, so they can have a tour indoors, not just to see the external structure, especially since it's not private residence. So those are the comments that I wanted to make. Great job, everyone. I'm back alive again, so I'm jumping in, call me. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If I could add to that, I wanted to just read you a piece of the update that I had in correspondence with Mr. Weaver to add to the 2 items that I told you. So in his notes, it says that since 1996, 21 contributing buildings within the Crescent City Historic District have been demolished. Based on the established period and boundaries, the current ratio of contributing to non-contributing is 58%, contributing to 42% non-contributing. With an evaluation period of significance and boundary, the percentage of contributing buildings could increase by including properties of the recent past, bringing other contemporary buildings outside the current boundary. It'll involve updating the boundaries of the National District area where buildings have been demoed, particularly on the margins of the district, such as in the case of the Lion House, formerly located at 209 South Prospect Street. Conversely, the boundaries could be expanded to the north and to the south to recognize more than 50 buildings constructed in the mid to post-war era of the city's development. Doing so would collectively present the contributions of current residents, families, and the city's resilience and expressed through development patterns of this period. The 2 most important of these are the Miller Middle School Complex and the Crescent City Waterworks. Those are on here to be added and of significance in this next round of match grant that we're looking at doing to update this register.
May I add something?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I keep coming up here. I kind of live and breathe this stuff though. They're talking about making a list of properties. Basically, you don't need to do that. The survey did that. That's what Paul Weaver's job was. you have that 300-page book, and it's online, it's a PDF, it's really great. And if you go to the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society's website, fphistory.com, you will see right on the front page, there's a little button that says Crescent City Survey Update. And I know because I put it there. So if you go in there, it'll show you where you can download the entire PDF as one, but it also breaks it down into several different maps and lists. And one of those I did towards the bottom is a list of the structures that were actually surveyed. And all of the structures were ones that were built before 1975 and have historical value. Now, your job might be to evaluate which ones are most important and which ones are maybe at risk of peril. But you don't have to worry about making the list because the list is made. So you just need, that was what we paid $50,000 to do, was him to go do that. And so there, and even all the buildings that were in the historic district, the National Register District, previously, they went and visited each one of those and updated them. So that's why they saw like, they evaluated over 350 structures. So it was like the 212 from the original district plus additional 100 or so that were in the period after 1945 to 1975. So I think you probably want to start with the oldest ones first, but your list is there, and you just have to go through that. And I will make one note. I think in the list of, it's kind of weird to see the list because it goes by streets. Because I don't know how you would actually, what other way it would be to list the properties, but it has the streets, and at one point there's about 8 or 9 that say South Prospect Avenue, which, as we know, is not a thing. So it's supposed to be South Prospect Street, and then there's a few more that say South Prospect Street. I think Jimmy fixed some of those, the one that was doing that part. I wrote to her about that, but besides that, the list is there, and actually the list is a lot better than the first survey in 1995, because on that, I found, going through all the stuff that we've done with This Place Matters and the website and stuff like that, that a lot of the addresses were really wrong then. I mean, like, completely blocks off. So obviously technology has changed a lot since 1995. So they did a much better job on this list, and it's much more accurate, except for the South Prospect Avenue. But that's your list, so that makes it a lot easier. But I think you might want to go and see and do some sort of ranking of the most critical needs or the most imperiled, and that would just require some groundwork and some consultation among you guys, and maybe then we can get some attention to those, because once they're gone, they're gone. That history is always lost. You can't replace it. You can't rebuild it. You can't make it whole again. So, thank you.
And thank you for your
Yes.
important closing remarks. And also, you just saved us a lot of work.
Yes.
And we thank you for that. Madam Chair, I recommend that we each look through the survey and perhaps get a list of 10 or 20 of the most important, and move from there.
What was the ad,
At fphistory.com. F as in Frank, P as in Peninsula, or Fruitland Peninsula. Fruitland Peninsula, fphistory.com. And that's the easiest way to download it here.
thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Yes,
Don't worry.
okay. Oh, so I'm still good there.
Yeah. First of the year.
Okay, well, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Miller.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Good evening. Danny Miller, 1400 Sunset Drive, Winter Park, Florida. But make no mistake about it, I'm a Crescent City boy. Just to add to the commentary on all of the wonderful candidates out there, perhaps in conversations with Mr. Weaver, might inquire if there's some ranking or scoring protocol that has been used elsewhere. I think certainly that must exist. And by virtue of the wonderful survey he's just completed, it would, perhaps he could help in scoring what are perhaps the most important candidates for preservation. We have so many opportunities. Sure, some are perhaps threatened to become a bit derelict. We have some that are particularly important from a civic and social standpoint. There's civil rights considerations that many opportunities for recognition there. So if there's some kind of protocol, scoring protocol that can be applied, I think it might help get us down the road in an objective kind of way. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very good. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, we'll move on to our next item of business, inventory of condemned properties.
So in prior meetings, it's been over a year or more, if there was a building that was condemned and threatened to be torn down, we were given notice of it. And there was one on South Prospect, if you remember, that we were notified of. And over time, that dropped from our reporting, and I suggest that we bring it back. And I'll give you an example. So about a year or so ago, we just talked about the Church of the Holy Comforter. Over on the backside of Lake Stella, there was a beautiful Gothic home. And behind it, a wonderful barn. And one day, it was gone. And that shouldn't happen. There should be some review before something is torn down. In this case, it wasn't condemned, but we lost our architectural historic jewel here in our community. And I think that as historical preservation shepherds, it's our responsibility to watch out for these important structures. And it also ties in with city codes. And so now is the time to put some meat into the codes and recognize the responsibilities of this board. So that's my point.
So maybe we need to come up with a way that we can identify those buildings once we get the list and go over. So, and come up with some type of creative idea so people will be able to identify those buildings before they decide to, and maybe we can notify the owners, or if someone purchased that property, they are aware that there's a process and they can't tear.
But it seems like last year when we were shocked by some building that was torn down without our knowledge, it was pointed out that the county issues those demolition permits. And unless we put a process in place that they have to notify us, we have no control over it. How can we do that, Derek?
Well, let me comment on that. In this regard, there's a lot of communities do it within their organization. We have contracted with the county to do it, is my understanding. So for us to request or to require them to notify us of a demolition for a structure should be normal, or if a structure has deemed to be condemned. So it's typical to ask for such a thing. Now, the county may say that may be complicated, but it really shouldn't be.
We usually get a report after the fact on permits for the month. And it runs on, I usually get the report for permits pulled from the county on the 3rd of the month. So December 3rd, I got November's numbers. So it's always behind.
But they were already issued.
They were already issued. I don't get anything ahead of time.
However, they must get a request for permitting.
Correct.
And so that would be the ideal time for us to be notified.
Correct.
And I have to tell you that at heart, I'm for, preservation and not demolition. However, in my 50 years of preservation and restoration, there are some cases where the structure simply can't be saved. And for many reasons, it needs to come down. There are also, by having this review opportunity, it provides us with the giving thoughts, well, instead of tearing it down, maybe somebody would like to buy the structure and move it onto their property adjoining. I mean, that's not uncommon, for instance. But at least it starts the conversation of a possible, the best solution.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
In the historic preservation ordinance draft, that's one of your jobs as the historic preservation board. Like I said, the certificates of appropriateness, the COAs, as well as the demolition permit. And there just needs to be a process put in place once we pass that ordinance so that the building department knows these certain properties, which we obviously have a list of now, that they have to contact us and actually, I do know as part of the process at the building department, if you go to apply for a demolition permit, they take your information and then they send it down here to us, or they send it to Zeph Cohen. I'm not sure if it comes to City Hall or it comes to Zeph Cohen. And then they sign off on it and send it back to Blackback, and then they issue it. So in the case of the property across the street, or the former property across the street from your house, Dan, the what was called the boarding house there, that obviously was a case of one that did need to come down. I don't think there was any other option, but the fact is
I
that
agree.
it was someone applied for a permit on Tuesday, paid $80, and on Thursday, the bulldozer was there tearing it down. And that was a contributing structure to the National Historic District. And that's awful, because not all of them are in that shape, but obviously it was, and that was just an empty lot there, and all of those memories are gone, and everything that happened in that house is no longer there. So this is something that I talked to our former city manager about, and this is something that Derek, I think you need to look into, because there is a process, there is a, apply, they check with us, and then the board goes back to Blackback, and then they issue the permit. So in the case of, if it's a historic building, it should come down here, and then it should say, no, you gotta go through the historic preservation board. And then we get scheduled for a meeting, and we have a hearing, and they come and present their case to you. In the case of the boarding house, I think it would be you guys would definitely probably say, well, no, it's gotta go. It was a safety hazard, it was condemned, it was dangerous for homeless people living in it, and it was a fire trap. And I don't think there was any way to say that without spending way more money than it was ever gonna be worth. But that would be your determination at that point to whether to issue the demolition permit or not. Or in the new historic preservation ordinance, you have the ability to issue a stay up to 180 days to determine if there are other options. And that's a very important part of this ordinance, so that there is time to look for options and to evaluate and to talk about it. Like the reason I became a city commissioner, the reason got active with the historical society, was I came to this meeting, or city commission meeting, when they were talking about the Union Lodge, and basically they were ready to tear down, and they were gonna have someone come and salvage the wood from it and do a arsenic and lead test and then tear it down. And I said, what? This is a little hasty. And so I was here and shared my feelings and met some of the nice people from PHS, and eventually got back involved with everything. But and that building is saved, and it has a lot of history and has a lot of importance to this community, as all of us know. And we're well on the way to hopefully preserving it, because it is an important part of this community. So that's what's going to be important for you guys to do, is to hear those demolition applications and then make a determination on whether they can tear it down or not. And so we just need to, and obviously the ordinance has to be adopted, but you might want to talk to the building department about how that is, because it happens that we're not the only people that Putnam County Building Department does work for.
Sure.
And whether it's in an unincorporated area or not, there are still rules that it's got to go by somebody. So it's just, they're a contractor, they're doing what we tell them to do, especially if there's an ordinance requiring it. So it just needs to be done. So,
Okay.
I promise I won't talk anymore if you guys.
Don't make promises you can't.
Okay, so that is something that,
I'll take care of it. I have notes here, and I'll reach
Okay.
out to the county and also our planning and zoning director.
okay,
I have a question for Dan. You mentioned the property in the south end of Prospect Street. Do you know what that was?
It was,
It's right near your house.
yeah, it was near your house, to the south.
That property has been going through a tornado or turmoil. It's been bought and sold like 3 times. And right now, they're in the process of reconstructing it. The reason they're doing that is if they tore it down, the square foot of the property isn't sufficient for them to get a building permit. But they're replacing the wood foundations anyhow. This has been going on for 3 years.
Yes, I was gonna say.
And how long can something like this go on? I asked the county, they said, well, as long as they have a
A
viable
and
permit.
Active permit, which could be renewed. Yeah.
yes.
But there's a question I keep asking everybody in regards to that property. The septic system on the property, that was the servant's house for the other big house that's right on the lake. And from what I know from talking to Jen and Joe, who own the big property, that small house used their septic tank. In other words, the small servant house and the larger property were all connected in one septic tank. As it stands now, the house is up for sale for 1.2 million, big one. And I don't know, there's gonna be an issue because they can't put a drain field on the property where they're restoring the house. Last time I spoke to someone, they said, well, we're just gonna connect to the sewer. There is no sewer to connect to.
Well,
And it seems like there's a lot of stuff up in here, but they keep chugging along, They work on it 2 or 3 days a week, and then they don't work on it for 3 weeks, and you see another crew out there working. It just seems that that's dragging on.
well, my understanding, of course, is, I assume that up on South Prospect, there is a waste line. Oh, there isn't?
No, it stops at Jason, the fire chief, stops at his house. I'm the last person. It stops at his house, and then my lot starts, and I'm on a septic system. So all the lots south of me have septic tanks.
Well, theoretically, they could hook up one to city waste.
Well,
However, the expense to bring it to their home would be,
I spoke to the last, is it Charles, the city manager?
right,
He says that'll never happen.
well, I think that's logic because of the hideous expense it would cost.
So if they can hook up the sewer and they don't have enough property to put a drain field in.
Well, and in fact, if their septic is on a neighboring property, that's an interesting problem,
Yeah.
but it's not ours.
Easements.
Yeah.
Easements, how long time?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tim Jefferson. I'm the new executive director of the Crescent City Downtown Partnership. Right over here, we have a headquarters. I moved up here about 2.5
Your
years.
address, please,
Oh, sorry, Palatka, Florida.
the physical address.
201 Elizabeth Lane,
Okay.
Palatka. I'm on the Historical Review Board in Palatka and have been for about 2.5 years. And so I heard some of the things earlier before I had to run out. We have been getting a lot of after the fact applications where they have already taken the wood siding off and put hardy board on or changed the windows that are modern, Lowe's looking windows, not historically appropriate. And so we've been having difficulty. We basically say, you're declined, your application is declined. And their process is they can go to the commission and submit that application. And normally the commission then pushes it back to us because, we're not politically elected. So that's a real problem, trying to wrestle with that. And most recently, we had somebody take out their French doors sliding doors to put in French doors. And he was okay with that. So you never know if you ask a homeowner, once they get in front of you, maybe they'll do it. But there's not much teeth to it. So, one property, he stopped construction and it's been nothing on this beautiful old house for a year. He lives out of the state and he says, I just won't do anything with it then, I'll just leave it as is. There's lumber on the porch and everything. But he had put things that were not appropriate at all, and he didn't even get permits from the county. So there's some real challenges there, but it's about the teeth, and I think that's what we were talking about earlier. Of course, code enforcement can levy a fine, but you've got to get to that point. Good luck.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
A lot of good luck. That's not our problem. Okay, we will, continue to Middle School update.
So, I first want to inform everyone that the BRC, as I think you probably know, under the city was dissolved by the commission late last spring, early summer. And so since then, the BRC 2.0 has evolved, independent from the city, by a group, and we've had one board meeting, and we're having another one tomorrow. So what I'm happy to report is that we are coordinating a meeting with the Putnam County Commission and the Putnam School District to get these two important groups together to air the possibility of perhaps the county taking over the school. We've had conversations with the county, and their intents to some of their people have expressed interest and a need. So that's where we are. Now, we've been trying to schedule a date, and it appears that the date now will be in March. And as we develop, I will certainly let you all know.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Sound good. Our next item of business is the Historical District Survey update.
We discussed those items already.
Okay.
Bounced.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come please. I'm writing and looking down.
What I didn't realize that, this 3-page summary is excellent. And I suggest you start with that prior to reading the reports. But one important statement is that during the Civil Rights era, it was the first desegregated school and first school with an integrated facility in 1966 when Mrs. Anona Burney came to the school. This summary also points out many other important historical reasons why the Miller Middle School is so important to our community. As we all talk to our fellow residents, especially those that attended school there's a strong bond. There's a strong family bond. And as the original BRC, as we stated in the very beginning, we are not out to create a huge burden, financial burden on acquiring a school. Just the opposite. Our mission was and still is to do it with the best possible financial results, which are the lowest. So thank you.
Danny Miller again. Just a couple of comments I might offer. I remember very well Mrs. Bernie. I was in 4th grade, and she came over as the librarian. And I don't know about y'all, but as a 10-year-old, I wasn't aware of a whole lot. But there was something about Mrs. Bernie. This stays with me to this day. She was truly a special lady. Her husband, Dr. Harry Bernie, some of y'all may have known, worked very closely with my father, George C. Miller Jr., who was chairman of the school board, to bring about desegregation in schools in Putnam County. This was the first school to do it. And some of y'all knew my dad, some of you didn't. He was a man of great accomplishment, a self-made man. And he told me many times that his single proudest accomplishment in life was to accomplish desegregation of this school system without a court order saying, you're gonna do it whether you like it or not. And this community that John spoke to so eloquently made it happen. And I don't remember any problem. You know, kids don't have a problem with other kids. But that school's really important on a deeply emotional level. I'd like to draw your attention to something that really jumped out at me from the report from Mr. Weaver, where he says, seldom has the survey team encountered a historic property as important to the future of the community as the Miller Middle School complex. I won't hop up on my soapbox, which I guess I've become noted for about that school, but as you're considering what the priorities are for this community, I would suggest to you that what that school could become through historic preservation being repurposed for adaptive reuse, essentially continued in the use that it has been for 125 years as a public facility. What it could become is perhaps the most important thing that anyone in this community will consider or undertake in a century. I truly believe that it is that important. So the groundwork that you're laying tonight for historic preservation, and which is really just a part of all of us remember where we come from, that is truly important and very, very impactful for our children, our grandchildren, on and on for 100 years. So thank you for allowing me my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vote?
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
All right. John Goodwall again. Why was the school named after George Miller Jr.? Well, he just explained it, but he had a calm way of dealing with things. And I don't know of another person that could have taken through this era of integration so gracefully as George Miller Jr. And he had the economic sense to get this school and the Interlochen School funded by the state of Florida. So we got 2 schools because of George Miller Jr., paid for by the state of Florida. Palatka chose not to do that. How many years later? 30 years later, they had to pass a bond issue to build a high school. But George Miller Jr. took us through this gracefully. And that's the business school named after him. And is that important? I think it's important. It's part of our history. And it's a great part of our history because we did something right as a community.
Thank you. And I was fortunate to attend all of these schools. So that's important to me. So all of them have a very, very rich history that we all can be proud of. I am proud, and I know you all are proud as well. So we have done great things in South Putnam County.
And when that date comes in March, we need to pack the county commission room with citizens from South Putnam and all over the county for this great purpose.
All right, our next item is the New Moon Lodge update.
All right. I just want to confirm with the board, so we have located our continuing services contract with Mr. Gonzalez with REG Architects. They are on this project and working with us. We've confirmed a new scope of work and programming for the project, since we're not going to be proceeding with the initial conceptual design that was provided and presented by REG on a report dated on June 30th, 2024. The reason being is just because this grant, we only have $50,000. That's what we have for schematics, for design, MEP plans, things of that nature. With the design that they originally had and presented, we would be well over $100,000. So I worked with Ricardo, and the summary of work that we revised that scope to be is for ADA accessibility on the first floor only, design of an exterior ADA ramp, ADA compliant restroom, and accessible circulation within the existing building. A structural stabilization and reconstruction plan, coordination with the structural engineer for stabilization of deteriorated framing, floor systems, roof structure, porches, and any required reconstruction to meet current standards. Another is the historic building envelope and preservation. It's architectural detailing for repairing and replacing deteriorated historic elements such as siding, windows, doors, soffits, and fascia, while maintaining historic character. And the last is the MEP, coordination of MEP systems required and proposed mini splits. MEP is mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So right now we have confirmed that latest revised scope. They're moving forward to preparing a proposal that's going to be going over to the state in conjunction with their continuing services contract, so I can get approval to move forward and contract them for that service. And we are looking forward to working with them for this second go round with the new thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, I realize I skipped one, so I gotta go back to historic district survey update.
Oh, no, we covered
We
that.
did that one. You're good.
Yeah.
We skipped around.
Oh,
Jumped right
okay,
into
all right, okay.
Yeah, but I would like to bring up an item that we should talk about, and that's the Union Bethel project.
You want to talk about that?
Yes, please. It's of course, it's one of our historic churches, and
Angel Duke, 404 North Lake Street. Union Bethel makes you smile because we got involved about 8 to 9 years ago under the direction of our city manager, Patrick Kennedy, who took an interest along with myself, John Newlow, and Ms. Kate Hamilton. At that time, we got to the point whereby we had recognized some engineering structural, et cetera. Mr. Newbold went up to SCAG, Savannah School of Art and Design, on our behalf, and he met with architect there. Subsequent to that, things went topsy-turvy because Mr. Kennedy left as city manager. Then along comes the pandemic, and so many of us are going through illness in the world. However, we started to jumpstart that program approximately 18 months ago, Jim, 2 years. And under the direction of 2 different pastors there, because they change out every 2 years. That's why there's no continuity there. So we are now working with a pastor, and she's coming on board gradually with us with the concept and idea. So we have already secured 3 different engineers, termite control and 2 engineers. And the purpose in the delay is that it was difficult to get people to come to Crescent City, small town USA, they want the big projects. So we now have the 3 termite control inspectors who've been out there, they've done a detailed inspection, and we got a final report from a qualified termite control inspector right before I got ill about 6 weeks ago. And thus that held it up a little bit. But we're moving forward. Now, as I spoke to our city manager this evening, that I'll be submitting to him a proposal from all 3 candidates, even though we know whom we would like, because the experts, and you guys met Rick Bowles, the architects that are working with us. So we're ready now to proceed once, hopefully we get approval to get rid of these termites. Now, once the termites are gone, we've already aligned with different contractors. We have one structural engineer, he's crawled underneath the house and taking pictures and all that sort of thing. So we are poised now to move to the next step, once hopefully we get the approval. Once you review all the information, submit it to you good guys, and approve to get those termites out of that building and put it in such a manner so they don't come back anytime soon, I hope. Then we can move to the next phase of financing, which is a larger portion. And we haven't gotten a total price on that yet, because we don't have the 3 contractors come in, because we're going through termite control. So that's where we are with that now, and I think we're moving forward now more so than being stuck in the mud before. So that's our update. I'm sure after we've met with the city manager, we can come back to you guys with a more concise report. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Any questions? No, you guys go. Thank you.
Okay, all right, we've made it to new business. Do you have any new business? So, okay, there's new business. Now we will open it up for any public comments, if there's any.
Yes, Ian. I think I heard at the last meeting that you had met as Historic Preservation Board was in April. I'm just tickled pink about the meeting tonight and what appears to have been accomplished. And I'd just like to encourage you going forward, perhaps to meet on a quarterly basis. There's a lot of work to be done, and things just kind of naturally kind of lose momentum if we don't keep after them. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, anybody else, any comments?
I just wanted to thank our audience for coming tonight.
Yes.
It means a great deal to us, and especially the many fine comments, thoughts, and ideas shared with us. it certainly helps us do our job much better to hear from the public. And I encourage you to attend our meetings in the future and bring your friends.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Steve Dempsey, 339. What's going on with I keep hearing that the little thrift store by Howell Memorial is gonna be torn down.
I haven't heard anything
If I
about that.
can, address that, at this point, there are no plans at all for that little building.
Okay,
We just, I'm a member of Powell Memorial.
Right.
And, we have, right at this point, we have no plans at all for what was the thrift shop. We can just, it's currently not viable to be used as a thrift shop, so,
okay,
that's the unfortunate part. And, we're looking at, in the future, opening up a thrift shop again, but we're not exactly sure what that looks like.
okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, because I
We've got a tight budget, so like everybody does, yeah, so we're a little shortfall.
Skip Miller keeps saying that it's a historical building.
Yeah.
It was an office for a citrus production
Right.
facility.
It's the only, as far as I know, we have no plans at this point at all.
Okay.
For it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Can I get clarification? You don't have any plans to use it, but you don't have plans to demolish it either?
We have no plans at all.
Because,
And we've tossed that around as, one of the million ideas that, we could do with it, but.
I'll agree with Steve said, it is the only extant building that is connected to the citrus business in this town, in this area, which used to be a huge thing. And it's the only one left, so that would be a great loss. And but I understand, that actually is what this board is for. Hopefully, if that, you come to get permission to do that, and hopefully we can come up with some options, but I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. But it is very important, so. And I want to thank all of you guys for being here. I know people say, I get paid, not a lot, but I get paid as a city commissioner. It works out to like 25 cents an hour, I think, but you guys don't, and that means a lot. And the fact that you guys are willing to be here, and willing to just get involved and care, means a lot. And that means a lot to me, and I appreciate it. So I appreciate your work, and you guys are doing a great job, and I'm glad to see this moving forward, and I'm glad to see such a great audience. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you.
And I will not say anything else, I swear. Adjourn the meeting though, so then
Okay, if there's nothing else, the historical preservation, December 18th, meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.